Exactly, that's my bad version of Zila's Lakatinj, one of the most famous Latvian slager. It reminds me of the time before I moved to Latvia. In those days, I used to listen to Schlager music now and then, and people would cringe eventually, but I wouldn't care. Somehow, the sweet, glorious, maybe nostalgic melody would take me away from the madness of the metropolis to bring me to a peaceful place. Now that I've lived in Latvia for 4 years, I don't listen to Schlager anymore. You could say that my relationship with the country has grown into something whose melody is less defined or clear. And thank you, Sasha, for joining me today. Welcome, Sasha, finally.
Ciao.
Ukayet.
Man iet labi. I'm good. Yeah, it's been a long day, but here we are. Been anticipating this meeting for a long time.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about it over a beer a while ago. But what have you done today?
Today I was busy with work mostly, and also with some personal affairs. My mom, she required me to do something in regards with the upcoming celebration. She wanted to print some pictures, so she had me as her
Assistant.
lackey. Yeah, just ordering some pictures and making sure everything's in order.
So busy day. Yeah, I mean we are today is the eve of what we're talking about. We're talking about the 18th of November happening tomorrow. Parade, yes or no? I don't know.
There is no parade, yes, but they are organizing something completely new. They are making an event where there are going to be 17 planes going over Vetsrig and the town center, and they're going to make a flag out of smoke. Quite a controversial thing, I would say, but I think it's much better than having fireworks and having all the people crowded at Daugava in Krastmala. That would not be ideal. Yes,
Controversial because it's the pollution, I presume, no?
I think so. Yes, yes.
Well, I mean, imagine the opposite of a lot of people smoking in the street.
In the form of a flag. Sounds like an amazing flash mob.
Yeah.
No, but still, it's something which um, it needs to be done. I think it needs to be celebrated. And even though we're in the middle of a pandemic, well, it's still quite the event. I wouldn't call it a holiday, but still a reason to celebrate. This is, I think it's one of the most, if not the most important day for Latvians. Yes.
Yeah, I would guess this is, yeah, I mean, it's a celebration of independence, right? We're talking about 1918,
Yes.
18,
1918.
despite the battles were over in 1919. There was still some conflict happening.
Yes.
19,
Before the day of independence, and of course after. And I dare say that the conflicts, they were, well, never ending. Some of them are quite
ongoing.
relevant even today. I don't
Yeah.
know, but it's such a weird thing. Well, I want to speak from my point of view. Yeah, because I still feel very patriotic and proud of the country and what we have accomplished. But then, well, I think you just noticed I took a pause before I said we, because I wouldn't say I'm a clear Latvian. I wasn't born in Latvia, and even in my family, we don't really speak Latvian. We speak Russian. So it's this well, weird feeling because I know that my my relatives, they didn't participate in these battles for freedom, and well, I just guess I feel a little bit different. Different.
Do you need to participate in the Battle of Freedoms to feel like patriotic? Or
Um, this is a good question, and I've asked myself similar questions. Like if I'm even, I don't know, it will probably sound silly now, But back when I was a teen, I used to think, well, do I even have um, a right to celebrate this holiday? Of course, I can celebrate as anyone can celebrate Christmas. You don't have to be Christian to celebrate Christmas. But I thought, well, I will never feel what the Latvians, the real Latvians, feel. But with coming years, I've realized it doesn't really matter. I've grown up in Latvia. I have deep roots in Latvia, and it's not just from my lineage. It's just, well, mentally, I feel very deep within the nation. Yeah.
Tell you on the other side, since you wanted to make that comparison about Christianity and Christmas, I was raised like a Christian. I don't believe in it, but I still enjoy. There is a feeling of, there is something like, for example, the degree in which I can understand patriotism in my view, in my experience, because if I think about it in not considering myself only, I can understand more of it because I can understand that Latvia has clearly a different history from Italy
Yeah.
in terms of what happened, and I can understand the way that you feel, the use feel. But personally, my level of patriotism is pretty moderate, and it comes out a lot in sport.
I guess it just depends on, well, what evokes this feeling of patriotism. Because you don't become a patriot just by being born in the country, or as you've said, just by participating in the battles of independence. That's not the case. For me personally, I would say, um, well, I arrived in Latvia when I was 4 years old, and I didn't speak a word of Latvian. And now I speak it daily. I would say it's my main language. Um, well, I guess I can't really say that since I do use English more, since I'm an English teacher. But
Yeah, by the way.
yeah, these feelings of patriotism, they were cultivated mostly by the culture and the people around me. I remember back in school, starting from the first or the second grade, I started participating in the school choir. And the school choir, we learned songs. We sang a lot of songs, and of course, there were events dedicated to this, the 18th of November, and of course, Lach Dienā as well. And many of the songs, they are quite patriotic.
Some of them are quite nice to listen to.
Definitely,
Even if you
yes.
don't understand what they say, they're quite nice. The melody is quite cool.
And as a kid, you don't really, well, at least I personally didn't really think much about the words and the meaning behind the words and the weight they carry. It was just a song for me. And throughout these songs, many songs over the years, because I continued being active in the choir up until high school, or until I finished high school. And slowly but surely, I started associating, well, myself as a Latvian, I would say, one, because of this choir experience, and the other because of the people around me. Yeah, this was a big thing. I think if I hadn't begun singing and also dancing folk dances, I would not be here in this position where I can speak proudly of 18th of November.
So the ingredients that made you a patriot till nowadays were mostly being immersed in that scenario where when we're young also it's easier also to belong to group logics when we're young. We absorb the atmosphere that is around us. This is something that I would really like to know. I never asked you that, despite we know each other for a while now, but I never asked you that. How has your idea of being patriotic changed since those days? So you are in your late 20s or early 30s, something like that.
I'm in my mid 20s. I'm
Oh, that's why
26.
they make you
Yeah.
older. Did you get more critical towards your approach as a patriot? Not that you have to, but is it still a memory of those days that feels pleasurable? It feels nice to belong, or has it become more inquisitive or more critical, possibly?
It's it's an interesting question, which I have an answer to. But the thing is, I'm not sure how did it happen. But I can tell you some facts. I speak fluently both Latvian and Russian, and for me, these languages they were equal when I was in school. It didn't matter if you spoke Latvian or Russian to me. I could switch on a whim, and
Yeah, that's great.
accommodating my partner in conversation usually. And something I noticed this year and the year before, since I've come to Riga, I don't know why, but I've started insisting on Latvian. I'm not sure why. I had this
Oh,
experience in a shop just last week, where I came in and I started speaking to the lady in Latvian, um, and she answered in Russian at first. And what the younger Sasha would do, he would instantly switch to Russian because, well, the goal is communication and keeping everyone comfortable. I'm not sure what happened, but in this scenario, I did not switch, at least instantly. No, I still
fuck
went
that.
on with my Latvian Latvian requests. In a couple of sentences, I did try to switch to Russian, and she reversed the scenario on me. She she spoke in Latvian, in faulty Latvian, and she did not want to go to Russian, even though she wasn't doing that good of a job. Well, props to her; she was trying, and I respect that. I respect that a lot. But she did not want to switch to Russian anymore. Yeah.
Almost became a battle of brains.
Yeah, and this is something that has changed. I don't know why. I've become more patriotic towards the language itself. I
Ah.
still haven't thought about it that much. What has happened inside of my head, and why would I want to insist on this language? I wouldn't call myself nationalistic.
Is it possible
But
that, allow me to ask, is it possible, since you don't know what is the reason, but maybe in Riga you are surrounded by more Latvian company than Russian, maybe compared to the previous place you used to live? Maybe that's one of the reasons, maybe by custom or like by
in
habit,
fact, it's the complete opposite.
it's the opposite. You got
Yeah,
all
I
right.
came from Liepaja, where I had many Russian friends, which is
No,
actually
no, I
maybe the
said,
reason. Yeah, it makes sense. I had more
but
Russian friends.
then you agree with me.
Well, you
Yeah.
said that there are more Russian people in Riga.
No, oh, no, I understand, but is it fair to say? I repeat that for
Yeah.
the record. I don't care to be right. That's not the point. But I'm saying, fact is that you are surrounded more with people that you don't have to speak Russian with in Riga compared to Liepaja. Liepaja, you have more Russian company. Can I say that? Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, it does. It does. But in Riga, at least in the public sector, in shops and customer service, many more people they speak Russian to you than in Liepaja. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know why.
But you had more friends though that they were
Yeah,
Russian. I get it. I
definitely.
get
Yeah,
it.
I had more friends. Well, of course, there
But
was this buffer zone between Riga and Liepaja, where I lived for 4 years in Ventspils, where I used almost exclusively Latvian, since all of my course mates were Latvian speaking. Yeah.
very seldom, for me at least, you get the chance to meet someone that is got a very um, very high degree of knowledge of both languages. Well, you learn Latvian when you were 4, so in those days, in those years, you really absorb everything of the language,
Mm.
which is what we teachers struggle teaching people because they're too old to learn. I meant um, me included. I think I started speaking English a bit late for learning it a bit late, and I can definitely notice when I speak. But you have a different knowledge of both of those languages. You have almost like an independent use. You can probably express yourself you can be very surgical with whatever you want to say. So I don't know how to ask. When you know two languages that well, do you get to identify yourself more with one than the other? I don't know. Like, how does it work?
Well, the scenario you described, well, me not knowing both languages on a surgical level, maybe you could say it about young Sasha when I was a teen. At this point, I would say my Russian language has deteriorated, just like a limb. If you sit too long on it and don't use it, it will atrophy and you won't feel it in a while. I would say it's similar. I used Russian earlier today, and I think it was earlier and yeah, earlier this week as well. But just because I spoke with my family, my daily life, I use it very little. It's not by choice. It's just that there is no opportunity. I would even say, yeah, no opportunity to use it that much. And well, the languages, the Russian language is at a much weaker level right now. But to answer your question, yes, I would say it does influence, well, the sense of belonging. Will you belong to Russian community or to the Latvian community? Or how well are you able to express yourself?
That's the second one. I was more interested in that.
Hmm.
But you like what is, because for example, in Italian, when I speak Italian or I write in Italian, I have some sort of I have less words than in English, because English has a, well, I know that in English I can be, that's the word again, I can be more surgical about something because they have a broader vocabulary than Italian. English has more words than Italian.
Okay.
So, but somehow the way that I put the words together in Italian, so not the words themselves, but the expressions, they represent me more than in English, which is more like copy and paste for me. Whatever. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's the thing that I wanted to know. You said it belonged probably the possibility to the fact whether I identify myself more to the Latvian society or the Russian society, or the language that allows me to express myself better. So that second point, which one is it? Latvian?
Well, I identify myself more with the Latvian community, yes, and I can express myself much better in Latvian. But again, this wasn't always the case. At one point, it was Russian. At another point, it was definitely English.
Yeah.
Just because of all the media I consumed and also the friendships I had with people from abroad, I could express myself much easier in English. But with time, again, I would say it's Latvian. Well, it's hard to say actually. Depends on the field.
On a lighter note, to remind me of another aspect of it, which is actually like you got Russian, you got Latvian, you got English, and somehow all these three, they might carry in themselves, when you use them, a different Alexander somehow, with different nuance.
Yes,
Yeah,
they
and
do. I'm a completely different persona.
I think I am too, from Italian to English. And yesterday, something really funny happened, or it was 2 days ago. I was parking the car and in the courtyard, and there was I don't use the car very often, so I'm happy to have a car parked at the back, as long as we can communicate to each other, as long as I'm not moving and I don't need to use it the next day. And this guy, this Latvian guy, started. It was extremely polite, and he started the conversation with "la vacca," which always sounds extremely elegant to an Italian ear, or "la vacca" sounds like a beautiful word already. I don't know. It's elegant, strong, and when you pronounce it clean, from a Latvian, if a Latvian pronounces it probably, it sounds like, say it one time for me.
Labakar.
Oh my goodness. He said that. Oh, that's already flattered by all the politeness. I started. I said, "Oh, is it okay? Are you going out?" But all in Latvian. He was saying that in Latvian, and I was trying to speak to him in Latvian with my poor Latvian. All of a sudden, though, because I was in a rush, slowly I was switching to English. And this man, when he was speaking in Latvian, he was clearly himself. It was the way that he was with his friends, the way that he was with his wife, or which I don't know, or whatever. But it's the language that we would use predominantly. At some point, though, it detected that I was skipping to English because I'm not good at multitasking. So I was trying to
Yeah.
fast, and my brain was going to English all the time. And all of a sudden, he accepted that, and he switched to English, but he became like an English gentleman, something totally different. He was very polite in Latvian, but in English, he almost became theatrical, and it was super. I was super grateful because somebody that does that is quite nice. That
But
is
what do
trying
you
to.
mean? Can you give me an example?
I said something like, okay, well, if you want me to, I can drive a bit further. I say it in Italian, in English, sorry. And he said, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it was this kind of Monty Python character. It sounded a bit clumsy, but extremely polite, and I was very grateful for that. But all of a sudden, you could see in 2 seconds the transformation of that man speaking his own language with all the confidence that it implies, and moving to English. Still a beautiful guy, like very polite and everything, but all of a sudden, it became this kind of caricature, which was still very pleasant, but all of a sudden it became somebody else. It wasn't just using the language functionally with a Latvian accent, speaking English. He decided to become someone else, and there was a moment where the language itself carries personalities.
I'm not sure if he decided to be more of something that he's not. It's probably just because, as it was with me, just because of the influence that he had. Maybe he did watch a lot of Monty Python movies the same day. Who
Probably.
knows? I've
Obviously.
noticed that I use I use some words that stick to me. I remember sticking to the word detrimental for quite a while because it sounds very nice for me.
There is a transitional point. The moment where that nice guy was in is in transition to the moment where all of a sudden, if you speak English long enough, I think that's what's happening to you. You do become somebody else by you flow. I don't know how to say it. I'm not talking about the grammar. I still do plenty of grammar mistake. I'm talking about the fact that you become less of a caricature when you speak in more occasions. And there's a transition because guess what? I was in this situation before when I was learning English. I had this kind of, I was more of a caricature speaking English, absolutely.
I can tell about myself and relating it to English. For a long while, the field I used English the most was teaching. So, side of teaching, I used Latvian, I used Russian, well, interchangeably. But, well, when you're a teacher, think about who are you at that moment. You're in the classroom and you're the head of the classroom. You are responsible for the setting, you're responsible for even the actions that other people take. So at some point, me being this I will dare call myself this figure of authority, it carries on outside of the classroom if I use English.
Yes.
Through language, but also just because I was in that environment where I am the top dog in the class. That was also the reason. If I was, for example, speaking English in between friends, I would never use the same words. I would never carry myself in the same manner. I would be more relaxed, use a lot more slang. But in the classroom, I did not dare do that. And I think I was making a reservation on the phone or speaking to somebody. Speaking to somebody, and I could feel it that I'm still in this teacher mode just because I'm using English.
The language is a vector, carries personality in it. I think we've been doing, also me and you, enough teaching in the last 2 years. Probably we've been extremely busy that I think that might have survived in my Italian. Sometimes the way that I faced the conversation. I remember I was talking to probably my family after 6 hours of teaching in English, and I think I was giving them the angle of a teacher. I was speaking Italian, but with this kind of interactive, which I would normally not do because I would speak like you said. There would be a lot of slang normally in my Italian, which I love that aspect because it makes me feel human again. I'm abandoning the English Fabrizio, which is not totally complete. I'm not totally complete. It's a journey. But I'm going back to Italian, and all of a sudden, through teaching in English, the way that I'm talking to my family is becoming some sort of TV presenter, like talk show. Oh yes, I understand that. What do you think?
Yes, I feel that.
And
Yes, I think it just proves this well-known saying: "You are the product of your environment." Yes, you did say you spent 6 hours teaching, and I can see that happening to myself as well. Yeah, yeah. But well,
I mean, some people might look at it from the angle of who really are you? The Sasha that is in front of me now, he's got some different nuances clearly that I don't know.
yes.
But
So you just made me realize you don't know the Latvian Sasha.
identity crisis, I'm happy.
It changes. It definitely changes here and there, but it's only natural. And the thing is, usually you don't even notice how it happens.
Being a bit of a pliapa myself, being a bit of a chatterbox, it might have happened in the past that the language preceded me in my speech, and I might have said something that I didn't believe eventually. So in that moment in transition, the one that we were talking about with the example of the guy in the courtyard or whatever, the moment when I was talking more like a caricature, I wouldn't bet that I was able to communicate with coherence. And sometimes the rush to communicate in a language that wasn't mine might have caused some discrepancies with what's real.
Doesn't it make it more fun? Let yourself be a caricature. Who cares? Because you're just using it for that concrete situation where you need to get your car out. Of course, when you're with your family, it's different. But why not have some fun?
Watching a lot of movies and trying to emulate what I was watching, and
Yes.
a lot of stuff like
I
that.
find myself doing that as well. Sometimes I just choose an accent and I go for that accent when I'm speaking to people until it annoys them too much and they ask me to stop. But I think it's just part of having fun.
So I mean, I was so bad. Like I remember, I was a big fan of Radiohead, and I couldn't understand what Tom York was saying in the lyrics. I would go to school and there were a couple of songs that I really liked, and maybe because of the British accent, maybe because Tom York really is not probably the clearest person when he speaks. I don't know what is it, but I realized so much later on what he was saying. And still nowadays, I don't know what the fuck he's saying.
I know I can give you an anecdote relating to this. There was this show on the radio. I guess it doesn't matter what kind of show it was, but you could call the show, you could call the radio station and tell the name of the song, and they would play it like many stations do. And there was this Latvian guy, and he was he called and he said he doesn't know the name of the song, but it's a popular song about mascarpone.
Yeah.
And he says everybody knows it, but the radio hosts, they were so confused. The song about what is it cheese? And he said he doesn't know because he doesn't speak English, but he started singing mascarpone, mascarpone. And the radio host, yeah, they understood him then. Yeah, it was the song Moscow's Calling, but he had no idea.
It sounds like every Italian karaoke after you have too many beers, and as much as the lyrics in English is on the screen, that is your interpretation of what they're saying in English.
Yeah, sure, go for it if you're enjoying it. It's hard to relate. I've only done karaoke once in my life, just once, but I loved it.
Nice, right?
It was after work, and me and my colleagues went for a karaoke night and grabbed some beers. And that day, a band was formed of me and and one colleague. Well, we called it a band. Our name was the beginning of both of our names, Sasha and Marta. We called ourselves Sharta.
What did you play in the band?
Well, we sang. Obviously, it's karaoke. Yeah,
Okay.
prativate.
You wait a second. You created a band to just sing in karaoke. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We called ourselves Muzikālā apvienība Sharta. And
Oh,
yeah, I think every time we went to the mic, I presented ourselves as not Sasha and Marta. I presented us as Sharta. Yeah.
do you remember going back to? I'm just curious. Going back to teaching. Do you remember? Do you have a clear memory of the time where maybe you were shyer or like you were, because to be a teacher is also to be a bit of an entertainer or public speaker. I've seen you teaching, and that's quite nice to what do you say, what's the verb,
To
to
witness.
witness like a murder. So it's quite fun.
Sometimes it is like this. I just butcher it in the classroom. Yes.
Also, we used to play sketches together where we used to teach in different classes, and I will get to your class and bring you some sort of something that looks like an award, and so for you, sir, this is the award that you forgot last night at the gala. So where maybe we were greener, or you
In the
were
field
green.
of teaching?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember trying much more to be entertaining and to have this approachable persona. Um, because I would say I am shy by nature, and I was definitely much more shy when I was less experienced, not just in teaching, but in the world as well. But yeah, I guess personalities develop.
Before you started teaching, you already had experience of being at the center of the attention in any other way.
Yeah, once or twice, and I'm actually very thankful for those experiences because I remember shaking like a leaf. I think there's a saying like this in Latvian, shaking like a leaf.
Sounds like
Rebecca Apšalapa, yeah. I used to do public speaking contests in English. My English teacher used to send me to those, and I did fine at the contest because you had this jury in front of you of 5 people, which is still super stressful, yeah. But then she asked me to do it in front of the whole school, in front of my school. And I remember it as one of the most frightening experiences of my life. I remember my legs shaking, me muttering something, yeah, being in shock. But I think after that and a couple of similar experiences, you start to get used to it a bit. Yeah.
I need to start asking the questions straight away instead of opening preambles all the time. So, do you think that your job has changed you? You've been teaching for longer than me, I'm sure, and I have like come back to teaching, occasionally left, then came back, and then since 2018, I'm steady with it. But do you think it did it change your approach to the way that you relate to other people? Think did it make you more patient? I don't know. The communication is different. We can agree with that, right? The way we
Yes.
communicate.
It's a very good question, very deep question,
Oh,
but also hard to answer because I guess it's just enforced my views that I had before, that they were enforced through teaching. Um, I've had different groups and different people, different students, I thought. And the one thing which I have always appreciated doing this job is that every one of your students, they're also a person and they have something to give back. I say I receive, I get a lot back from just teaching these people because they bring their own unique views.
yes.
Um, and I also, I guess it helps because the way I teach is very personal. I like to get into personal details and conversations and in just regular teaching subjects because when we talk about things that are close to us, it's easier to remember. So it's me enforcing these grammar rules and whatnot through their stories. For them, it's just telling about their life and what are they doing. But for me, it's often inspirational. So I've always had this view that every person can teach you something, at least something, a little tidbit of information or well, anything. he does not have to be very respected in the society. He can be up from the upper echelons of society, or he can be living on the street. But every person can teach you something, and it was just heavily reinforced through teaching. People who are very timid students who do not who have not still they don't, even after a lot of effort invested, they are very scared of speaking English, but they are professionals in their field and they carry a lot of respect from other people.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nice to see also see them from the other side where they're not that sure in their abilities. Well, I'm talking of English here, but it's just I think it relates to my personality. I'm just I like people, yeah, and it's interesting.
I'm a bit of a people person myself, and I agree with the fact there is one. I try to establish one rule in my classes where non-fiction is not allowed. Actually, no, the opposite. The rule fiction is not allowed. And
Yeah.
I hope I haven't told them that forever, because otherwise they. So fiction is not.
Just tell me stories.
But because not only because it's more entertaining for me, but also because they're talking about themselves and they have a different passion when they do that. But there are shy people. Sometimes I try to collect information about them, and they really you have to gauge information out of them sometimes. But in a week or 2 or 5 months or whatever, the course usually lasts 3 months, so it's too late. But the thing is, you get lucky enough sometimes to find these shy people at the beginning, but then you understand what they like, because they kind of let it out by accident. Motorcycle, you see that somebody starts speaking about motorcycle, and maybe this person eyes comes up, okay, I got you now, you like motorcycles. So
Yeah.
sometimes you get lucky. The next class, all of a sudden,
Let me ask you a question.
yeah, of course.
Can I ask you a question? Do you make notes on your students? For example, Aya, she likes, as you said, motorcycles, and I don't know,
I
she has a big family, maybe.
I'm gonna give you an answer that is probably will sound arrogant. I don't, but I do remember. What is it that they click with? Whatever that is, I do remember that.
Yeah.
But because, and also one thing that is very important, my memory is very bad. I haven't been exercising my memory with things. I'm a disaster. If that student is if really telling me something like in a way that showing me passion, and all of a sudden I connect, I remember. Or even if there is a student that passionately doesn't show any passion, I do remember that because it does it with a lot of energy. Yeah, I don't take notes. I probably got preferences too. That's human, I presume.
Yeah. I myself have also fallen out of practice. I used to take a lot of notes, and it gets you nice reactions when in 3 months you bring up this subject a student mentioned only once, and it gets you a lot of points professionally as well, because they have no idea you wrote it down. But it's good. It helps them reinforce. Well, I use it to speak about topics.
Regarding your ex-girlfriend that left you for your best friend. That was it. Yes, Yanis, yeah, tell us how did it go with your ex-girlfriend that dumped you for your best friend 2 months ago? What happened? Sorry.
Well, I agree that there are two good ways to learn things. One is through strong positive emotion, and the other one is through strong negative emotion.
Yeah.
So you bring up the trauma again and again, and he will learn. He will learn to not speak about these things with you.
But also there is this category in between. Usually you're right, you got this opposite. You got like maybe somebody that behaves a bit like an asshole on one side, and you will remember him forever. And then on the other side, you got someone that maybe is very positively passionate. And then you have these people that are in between, that they look like they don't have too much to say, or they're not standing out. But after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're already trying to look for something. So naturally, you need the little to be curious. It's fun. Sometimes I wonder why we're getting paid for it. It should be for free or whatever.
I don't want my employer to hear that.
Yeah. You're very happy with one read at the moment that you are into. Homo Deus, from an Israeli writer. Am I right? Do you?
Yes, you picked it up. I still haven't finished the book. I'm in the process of reading it. Um, it's a wonderful piece of literature. Yes, it's written in um, this this particular style where it's a very fun read because the language is colorful and the vocabulary used is very engaging, but at the same time, it's very scientific. It has sources for every claim it makes. But yeah, Homo Deus, a brief history of tomorrow. Um, the book is, I can't really speak about the whole book. As I said, I still haven't read it.
You don't have
But
to.
the idea is what will happen as of now in the future. It's not talking about flying cars or everybody living forever, maybe. It's speaking from the point of view of now, from the point of view of what has happened in history, and judging from that, just making guesses of what might happen. For example, I think the first chapter was about the struggles we have had before, which was, well, one of them is health. People used to worry about dying all the time, of not having enough food, for example. Yeah, hunger. Nowadays, hunger is not the biggest issue. Actually, it's the opposite. Much more people die of obesity than of malnutrition. Yeah, so this big problem, which used to be a problem for many years, thousands of years for humanity, it no longer is a problem. So now what? So it makes guesses on what might happen in the future based on what it has established. And I have it in front of me. And the listeners of this podcast will not be able to see it, but I have very many notes already, many bookmarks where there are some very interesting tidbits from the book. Maybe let me pull one out as a finisher. Yeah, let's see. Yes, death. As I said, it speaks about this concept of death and what is deadly to the modern human, and backs it up with facts. Facts. The sentence I have marked is that Coca-Cola poses a far deadlier threat than Al Qaeda. Terrorism, which was quite scary and still is for many people, it's I will sound arrogant saying it, but it's not important because ultimately not many people suffer from it. It doesn't mean we shouldn't care about it. We should definitely, but this is not a problem we should focus on as a nation. And yeah, the book brings up wonderful points and
It reminds,
examples from history.
it reminds me a bit of this example with the Coca-Cola, and they used to like supposedly crazy comparison with Al Qaeda, which is not at the end. With the fact that what we're living now in the pandemic, and the fact that society in general has been has done very little in promoting being healthy. Well, actually, we are healthier now than in general if you look back at 50 or 40 years ago. But
Yeah.
so there is a lot of talk about whether we're supposed to do the vaccine or not. How about without forbidding anything? But how about educating or sensibilizing a bit more people in staying away from sugar, which is enemy number one. And I remember when I used to live in, it was easier for the poor families that lived in the East End to actually fill up a trolley full of Kit Kat and Mars and whatever than buying groceries. And sometimes it was actually they could afford groceries, but also the knowledge was lacking, and it was so much easier to actually buy those quick fix of fried chicken and Twix and whatever than actually
It's not only about easier; it's also cheaper.
And but there has to be a knowledge in how to prepare it and things like that and whatever. So in school they were doing it. Once I remember there was a program where in school a teacher would bring a trolley full of vegetables and whatever. But going back to that, it's something that is pretty much out there, but we're not talking enough about being healthy despite the pandemic. It seems that we get distracted easily at the nearest enemy or something than actually something that has been there all the time, which is like a sugar or.
Nobody really realized that it's that big of a problem until people will start talking about it and started making research on it. But the big point that I want to highlight that I've learned from this book, it's a debatable question, but I think most would agree that Homo sapiens, people, we are the leading species on our planet. And the question is why? Is it because of our intellect? Well, the answer, to summarize it, maybe spoiling a book a bit, the answer is no, not really. It's not because we're the smartest. It's not because that we're the sturdiest or the biggest animal. It's because we cooperate very well.
Yeah.
We cooperate very well, and we can self-organize on a big scale. There are species that can self-organize much better than we. For example, bees or ants, they communicate for a common goal, which is not merely related to humans, but cooperating on a scale of the whole world. For example, even in this scenario of the pandemic, this is only attributed to humans. No other species can do that, and this is the reason that we have come this far, and why we will succeed, I believe.
It feels like we are destined to do great things, even if you're going to do a general massive suicide, but whatever. But the thing is,
that's not the type of cooperation I'm speaking about.
there is some division of labor and hierarchy involved. Look at that guy, Reverend Jones, that all those people to an island in the Atlantic, I guess, and whatever, and he just convinced them with only his words to get to suicide. I don't know about that, because sometimes you read about animals that like different species that have similar traits, but they don't have them all together. We have a lot of things all together.
One is cooperation, the other one is adaptability. We can adapt very quickly to difficult situations. If a colony of ants is threatened, well, their instinct is to protect the queen and to rebuild, but if they are thrown in water, they will not be able to do any of that.
I mean, sometimes there are aspects of us that are still stuck in a primitive area of reaction. But I guess that, for example, when the adaptability, when you decide to put the instincts on the side and you try to adapt to each different situation, that is quite cool, because also it gives you the possibility not to live together with a life that is always in danger from one side. But on the other side, we have this perverted will of looking for risk and getting close to death. So there are these two things, like we want to survive on one side, but there are some aspects of our character different from each one of us that are kind of flirting with death in a way that is just incredible. Like it's just we are both in that situation.
Well, the magical thing is, well, we humans, we have always looked for answers. And we have also looked for answers to this question. Why? Why do some people take risks more than others? And I think it's quite magical that we often come up with answers. Sometimes they are not completely logical. For example, I'm thinking of a situation where, for example, in the Middle Ages, let's burn the witch. She's the reason the crops don't grow. And of course, in time, if you burn a witch, your crops will start growing again. But it's outside of because of unrelated reasons. But here we know it's just biochemistry, how the brain works. We want to feed our brain with these neurotransmitters as dopamine and adrenaline, and makes us feel good. And it's interesting that we have actually identified this. We identify that some people want more adrenaline than others. And they can, if they know that, they can put themselves in situations that gives them the adrenaline but doesn't threaten their life.
In Italian, like when something is very nice and it procures you a bit pleasure, and you really been in a pleasurable moment, whatever that is. Okay, let's not get into details. Okay, but when you really are enjoying something, you're enjoying something that you almost dying. That's the expression. So there is a connection between reaching the apex of pleasure that is almost parallel with death, and is ingrained into the Italian language, but probably not just Italian. But also at the same time, we are full of so many stupid things we do at the same time. We talked about the amazing things and the discoveries and the fact that we can adapt and change and everything. But also, we do so many stupid things. I mean, I do so many stupid things in terms of I'm not in control all the time. Sometimes I have an objective, but that in hindsight it looked extremely easy 2 months afterwards. But when I got it in front of me, I don't have a strategy. I don't care. I don't want a strategy either.
But I can agree. I can definitely agree. And it's interesting that when you're in a situation of uncertainty and maybe even danger, and you feel like it's the worst situation ever, at the point you're right. It is the worst situation to be in at that moment, but in the long term, you might look back at it and think of it, oh, that was so good because I have grown from it as a person.
It just it's a mix of things, and it's definitely, we're still alive and it's still interesting. Sasha, I'm going to say, how do you say Latvian? See you soon. It's like uzredzēšanos. Uzredzēšanos.
Oh, it's official. It's like, yeah, see you soon. Uzredzēšanos. We
That's
say until later in Latvian. Until later. Līdz vēlāk.
Okay. Well,
yeah,
I'm
amazing.
going to
thank you
to say bye to you, and hopefully we're gonna do this again very soon. Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you. Ciao.
Okay, we're still here.